Hello, thank you for tuning into my channel. Hopefully you are a recurring subscriber and I appreciate you. If not, if you're a first time viewer, thank you. So I have been out for a little while. I've been recuperating from a knee injury, and the time down gave me a little time to reflect, and I was actually thinking about Jesus a little bit during this time. Now, regardless of your religious affiliation, there is no doubt that Jesus of Nazareth is a historical figure who actually existed, right? Like, there's no doubt about his existence as a person. And so that's what I want to talk about today. My own little conspiracy theory revolving the historical Jesus. Now, of course, Jesus lives during the first century, and this is a crucial period for Western civilization. Not only does it mark the transition from the Roman Republic to the Roman Empire, but it is also the birth of Jesus. And Jesus is a huge figure within Western civilization, and there is no doubt or argument to that. Now, like I said, this is a conspiracy video, so I'm not really going to go too much into the history of it. You know, Caesar's civil war, the rise of Augustus, the life of Jesus. These are huge topics with libraries of historical information. And I'm just going to assume that everybody watching this knows who Jesus is. So I'm not going to go into any detailed observation about the first century. But my conspiracy theory is this. What if Jesus of Nazareth is the biological grandson of Gaius Julius Caesar? And I know that sounds fucking ridiculous on the surface, but hear me out a little bit, because there's two big pieces of evidence for me that I'm sort of using to back up my little conspiracy theory. And the first one is that Caesarion was not murdered. And then the second one is about the massacre of the innocents by King Herod, which is recorded in the book of Matthew. And so, in my mind, when Jesus claims to be King of the Jews, this is a literal statement. He is actually positioning himself within this dynastic struggle that we would have seen in first century Roman occupied Judea. And more importantly, if you were just a random citizen living somewhere in, I don't know, Cappadocia or Noricum or any of the other Roman provinces, had you heard about Jesus, you probably would have thought that this was a claimant to the throne, the Roman emperor. Okay, so my first point, that Caesarion was not murdered by Octavian. So if you do not know, Caesarion is the son of Gaius Julius Caesar and Cleopatra VII. And according to the official historical narrative, he is killed by Octavian sometime after the Battle of Actium, and this leaves Octavian to be the sole heir of Caesar, to where he rises to take the title of Augustus, and he is the first Roman emperor. So, as we all know, governments lie to people, right? This shouldn't come as any surprise that you shouldn't trust politicians on their word. And I may be wrong about this, but the killing of Caesarion is not like an objectified truth. It's sort of taken, we're sort of taking Octavian's word that Caesarion was killed. This is sort of depicted at the end of HBO's series Rome, where Titus Pullo saves Caesarion and then they wander off into some city. And it got me thinking, like, what if that actually happened? what if Caesarion was not murdered and he escaped from Egypt up to Bethlehem in the province of Judea? And it got me thinking, like, maybe he took the alias of Joseph. I mean, Joe is a pretty common name. I'm sure it was in, first century Judea. And then he married a Jewish woman named Mary, and they had a baby, Jesus. And now Caesar was deified 2 years after his assassination, which means Caesarion is semi-divine. So if Caesarion is the actual blood father of Jesus and Caesar is his biological grandfather, then within that pagan worldview of the Roman Empire at the time, he would have been divine. And so his claim to be the Son of God would have been a legitimate one. And so his maternal bloodline through Mary makes him Jewish, because that's a Jewish custom. If your mom is a Jew, you are a Jew. And so when he claims himself King of the Jews, he is actually challenging Herod the Great and the Herodian dynasty to be claimant of the Jewish throne. And having been Roman through Caesarion and Caesar, but also Greek through Cleopatra, you would have had a mix of Roman, Greek, and Jewish. And if you had somebody that could unite those three areas, you have a unified Roman Empire, because the Jews throughout the Bible, they are in rebellion against the Romans and the Greeks before them. And I made a video on this a while back. You can check it out. It's called The Gay Legion. And this also leads me to my second point. I misspoke it. The massacre of the innocents by Herod, as recorded in the Gospel of Matthew. Now, I'm not a priest. I'm not a biblical expert. But from what I can gather, this also is not a solidified historical fact, and it's questionable about whether Herod ordered this massacre. Now, if you're not familiar with the massacre of the innocents, basically Herod gets word that Jesus is born, right? The Messiah, the Son of God, and the three magi. And so when he hears about this, he orders a massacre of all children, I believe, under 2 or 3, and they're all massacred to again make sure that the Messiah has been taken care of. So what I'm thinking is, let's say that massacre did happen. Why would it happen? First of all, if for a client king of Rome to make such an order, I believe that Octavian, who is emperor at this time, must have known about it. Like, you're not just going to kill a bunch of what would be seen as Roman citizens, Roman subjects anyway. You're not going to do that without the okay of the emperor. So what if Caesarion lived, he went up to Bethlehem, he married Mary, and they had a child, and now Roman spies, Jewish spies under Herod, got this information and they gave it back to their higher-ups. And that is why Herod orders the massacre, as a legitimate protection of his throne. And so not only would Herod have this political incentive to protect his throne, but Octavian as well. Because if word had gotten out, and there was proof that Caesarion, who is the biological son of Caesar, unlike Octavian, who was the adopted heir, this means that this newborn baby in Bethlehem, Jesus, not only poses a threat to Herod's throne as the Jewish king, but poses a threat to Octavian as the legitimate Roman emperor. And so, fast forward a little bit, near the end of Jesus' life, obviously we all know the story of the crucifixion, but Tiberius Caesar, who was in turn the adopted son of Octavian, so the Julio-Claudian dynasty, right, because Tiberius is the son of Tiberius Claudius Nero, and has no relation to Caesar. Now we're in, I think Jesus was crucified in 30 AD. So now we're looking at we're looking at the reign of Tiberius. Jesus, if he is the blood son of Caesarion, is a legitimate threat to Tiberius' throne, as he is the rightful heir of the Roman Empire. Could that have influenced the Romans to have crucified Jesus? Maybe, right? I mean, Pontius Pilate, I may be wrong about this, Pontius Pilate did not want to crucify Jesus. He kind of pushed it off to, I believe, like the Jewish Sanhedrin, the Jewish courts, essentially. But this rise in Christianity throughout the early Roman Empire, what if it was tinged with this political reality that the Julio-Claudian dynasty is a fraud, that Tiberius and the successive emperors up until the assassination of Nero, at least, are all illegitimate, that Jesus is the rightful heir to the Roman Empire? Could that have played a role in the Romans' position to carry out the crucifixion of Jesus, which, and again, I'm not a priest, but in the Bible the Romans have no real incentive to carry out that order except to pacify the Jews, the Pharisees, the Sanhedrin, these people who would have been against Jesus as a false prophet. Was Jesus the rightful heir to the empire? And hence he would have been Jesus Julius Caesar. Right? Maybe? I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy, but that was just my thoughts. And also, one extra little tidbit is the title of Christus, which means the anointed one, right? Jesus Christ, Jesus Christus, he is the Messiah. Christos is a Greek term. Now again, his grandmother in this theory is Cleopatra, who is a part of the Ptolemaic dynasty. And of course, later on we see a split between the Latin Western Roman Empire and the Greek Eastern Roman Empire. Could Jesus be the key in uniting those two halves? Because, I mean, they've been separate ever since, the Diocletian reforms, and then later you have the Great Schism of the 11th century. What if they've had it wrong the whole time? Jesus as Roman emperor would have united both of them. So that's just my little quick rant. I don't know if anybody else agrees with it. Certainly the churchgoers are not going to agree with it, as this is, pretty blasphemous from a church perspective. But, yeah, I don't know. If anybody found that interesting, or if they learned anything, let me know in the comments. But thank you for watching. I'm out.